The greatest gift that I learned on this journey so far is that we have no idea how capable all of us actually are. We have no idea what really is possible for us, and most of us will never achieve it. But that's why we are here, and that is everything that we feel so excited to get to do.
If you're someone who loves learning, who loves growing, who loves maximizing your potential, busting down limiting beliefs that keep you from actually reaching the best version of you, and you have this feeling that you're destined for far more and that you have so much more in you, that is where Evolve comes into play to help you break one limiting belief at a time.
Hey everybody, what is going on? It's Bianca.
Welcome back, Evolvers. It's Emilia.
So we wanted to kick this episode off by kind of reintroducing ourselves and reintroducing who we are, why we are, and honestly why you should give a shit and why it's worth your time to listen to this show. Emilia and I have a very interesting story of how the both of us got here, both individually and collectively. And we've never fully talked about it. And we're not going to obviously be able to get like super in depth in this episode. We're going to try to keep this around 15 minutes, but we want to share who we are with our community, because people come to a community not just because of what they'll get from it, but really it's about the people that they're going to meet in that journey and who they're listening to and why and what it feels like, sitting across the table from that person, whether it's like metaphorically, like you guys sitting here watching this video, or in the events that we do or whatever. So it's important that you guys know, like, and trust us, basically. And we want to help in that by kind of telling you guys who we are and what brought us here. Because a lot of people look at Emilia and I and they just think that nothing's happened to us. Like, Emilia has been told many times, like, you kind of look like a princess and like nothing's ever happened to you, and like, how do you know struggles?
Or
And
how can Barbie help me is another one that I've gotten.
Barbie and Ken.
Yeah, we've gotten that. Mm-hmm.
Ridiculous. People make judgments, people make quick snap judgments, and we both have very interesting stories, and it interesting stories that really drive who we are, why we're here, and like I said, why it matters. So I'm going to start just up until the point where I met you, and then we can talk about what that journey together, and then you tell yours, and then we'll dive in of like what it was like together. Does that sound good?
Sounds good. And I want to add a comment, and I'm pulling this from Ready Player One. I loved this quote and it reminded me of Evolve so much. I'm going to butcher it, but I'm doing that intentionally because of this episode. For anyone that's joining us or has been with us along the way, you know that you don't necessarily come to Evolve and stay here because of what you get. You know in your heart of hearts that you come to Evolve and you stay here because of who you become. And that could not be more true, and it couldn't be more resonant to what you're about to hear from Bianca, because just like Bianca, just like me on this episode and in this journey, it's not like what we've gotten from this journey that's had us stay. Like every single Evolver in the journey, it's way more about who we have become. And that's why we stay. That's why we stay on this trek. That's why we stay on this journey. And that's why we stay on this adventure that is Evolve. And that's why we are here to serve and to help people show themselves who they are capable of becoming.
Ooh, I'm nervous. Okay, this is good. I haven't talked in detail about this, and I need to start doing so, um, because it is a huge part of who I am and why this all matters so much and like what brought me here. So I'm just going to say my story as if nobody's ever heard me before. So I grew up in a very, very Middle Eastern family. I was the eldest daughter, and I was the problem child from a very, very young age. I rebelled significantly against my family. I rebelled against their beliefs. I didn't agree with it. I didn't agree with the fact that because I was a girl, I should look and act and think differently, and that because the boys in my family were boys, that they were somehow better than me. I really revolted against it. And my family was very emotionally unintelligent and emotionally unaware and didn't know how to emotionally meet our needs. And from a very, very young age, and this is the thing that I haven't really said out loud before, I developed borderline personality disorder. And nobody knew what it was back then. And you can't diagnose it at that young of an age, but my parents didn't know how to emotionally meet my needs, and my mom struggled with her emotions too. So I'm this young girl in this family who I vehemently am against their beliefs, and I have this mental health challenge that nobody knows what it is and nobody knows why I'm acting the way that I'm acting. And I rebelled so hard for so many years that I ended up getting into a relationship for 4 years where I was being mentally, emotionally, and sexually abused and threatened to be physically abused. And I didn't want to leave because I didn't want my family to be right. I stayed in it just despite them because I didn't want anyone knowing the truth of what was going on, and I didn't want anybody's opinion about it. And honestly, I was too scared to leave because I wasn't taught how to do anything. I wasn't taught how to be an adult. I wasn't taught, how to speak up. I wasn't taught anything. And it was really scary. And there was a lot that happened in that. And when that relationship ended when I was 20, I was the most broken, insecure, like worthless human being. I couldn't do anything. And I felt like my life is over. And at the time I was trying to figure out my sexuality, and that relationship pushed me over the edge, and I was like, men are trash and men are just going to abuse me. And I kind of had feelings for women. So I was like, all right, let's go down this path and kind of see where this leads us. And I was in that for like 4 years, just in school, but not really doing that well. Like I did well, but I wasn't trying to figure out who I am, trying to figure out how to be a human being. And that's when I met Kevin and Alan. And they were the first mentors I ever had. They were the first people that were ever like, there is something more to you. There is something more about you. And you've kind of been lied to your whole life. And it opened the door for a lot of growth and a lot of experiences and a lot of self-realization, and me realizing, oh, this is what I want. This is what I've always been craving, this deep connection with people and feeling like I'm doing something in the world that matters. So Kevin was into Muay Thai, and I had done karate my entire childhood. And he was like, you should try doing Muay Thai. Like, you might like it more. So I'm like, okay, why not? So I go to this Muay Thai gym that's around the area that I was living in, and I meet this girl. And I'm like, holy shit. Number one, she's insanely hot. Because back then, I was experimenting with women, or I was dating women, and I had told myself, like, I want to be with women. So I meet this girl and I'm like, holy shit. Number one, she's hot. Number two, she's beautiful. And number three, she's a freaking badass. And I'm this insecure, like I thought that I was this like little plebe. And I'm like, I can't go near her. I can't look at her. Like, this person would never want to be friends with me. And she just comes up to me. She's like, hey, you want to spar together? And I'm like, yeah. Are you kidding me? And that's how I met Emilia. I had decided I wanted to try Muay Thai. I had done a couple of sessions, and then I meet Emilia and we start sparring together, talking about life and growth and personal development. And then I introduced her to Alan, and that their story kind of emerged from that. But that was the very start for me of what the next 7 years or 6 years would look like, because we met in 2018, right? It was like the
I want to say it was 2019. Yeah.
It was it was in the middle of 2019, because it was the summer, because we had went to that beach trip.
Yeah.
Freaking wild times. So we met, and then the next 6 years after that, a lot else happened, but I'm going to stop there. What was your life up to the point where we had met?
God damn. Be like who you became, to the sentiment that I said earlier, who you have become since then is just like, my goodness. And also, congratulations on sharing vulnerably for the first time.
I've never
something
said
that you've
loud.
never said out loud. I'm so proud of you. Again, who you've become. I appreciate it.
My heart's beating out of my chest.
Yeah, I know.
Hi everyone, my name is JC DaCosta, and I just wanted to tell you a little bit about Evolve Ventures, and to let you know that it is a community where you can be your authentic self. I personally have experienced a place where I can tell my story and know that I'll find somebody who has shared a similar experience. It's a community of empathy, of leadership, of growth, of opportunity, and it's just a phenomenal community with budding and growing leaders who have a voice, and it's a forum and a platform, all of this good conversation, and it's meaningful conversation. So I am grateful for Evolve Ventures and its leadership, and thank you so much for listening to my spot. Take care.
So I see you, I hear you, I feel you. And same, whenever I go into, let me tell you a little bit about Emilia, when it comes to interviews or even on this podcast, my heart starts to race too, because really what's happening inside of me is a lot of symptoms of complex PTSD, one of them being memory. So for lack of better words, I had struggled with memory challenges for my whole life. So to kind of give a little bit of context and background for those of you who might just be jumping on the Evolve train now, or for anyone that's been on the journey, as we continue to grow and become more and more of ourselves, we start to obviously reprocess our past to the capacity that we can. And one of the things that's been really challenging, interesting, and scary for me is actually uncovering that past that I had lived, but memory wise wasn't necessarily connected to. And so when I was young, I didn't grow up in a Middle Eastern family. I grew up in a very like basic white, I would say standard family household, if you will, of America. And while yes, we had, my grandfather was an immigrant, and we had background that had, that multicultural effect. When I grew up, I was one of three children. I was the middle child, Libra by nature, always trying to keep the balance in the family system. And I didn't realize how much of a role I played within that, as we all learn over time. And one of the big things that ended up actually happening to me that occurred within, it was probably around my 7th year of life, I would say, maybe even younger. I'm still trying to figure this out, because it was an anchor trauma. was I was molested by one of the members, not of my immediate family, but of my extended family, and I never really talked about it. And because I was so young, it wasn't something that I could or felt like I could talk about. And as a result of that initial trauma, one of the things that I now know that had happened to me is essentially my brain went black. And so my hippocampus, which is responsible for essentially logging and tagging the context of my experience, essentially wasn't working anymore. So my brain completely changed as a result of that initial trauma and the subsequent traumas that spun off of that. And so I essentially had memory challenges and couldn't remember. I remember referring to myself like Dory. I felt like Dory. I couldn't remember things. And this led all the way up until, I would say, mid-20s, when I started to do the work, if you will, and kind of go into brain recovery. But long story short, I lived like 80 lifetimes in that period prior to meeting Bianca. I traveled the world, 13 different countries. I'd worked in different countries across America, and I had done research, and there's so much more that I could get into and that we will get into in future podcasts. But whether it be business endeavors, being an entrepreneur, like I've always been an entrepreneur. That has always been the nuance about me. And I had always been the one that was, or felt as though I was the black sheep of the family, because I was hyper growth oriented. And again, I didn't realize this until I was in my mid-20s, until I was starting to dip my toe into the deeper aspects of psychology, of IFS, internal family systems, of trauma recovery, all these things. So as my academics increase, my awareness of my life experience increase, and man, I'm telling you, I practically felt like I got hit by a bus. And so by that time, one of the biggest things as a result of me trying to process my trauma was I want to make sure that I can do everything in my power to keep myself safe. And so that's when I started learning Muay Thai, and that's when I started meeting Bianca. And at the time, believe it or not, there was no females that could actually participate in the way in which my training capabilities would come up. So I've always been an athlete, and I would always kick everyone's ass. And yes, there were people who could work with me at my weight and whatnot, but I never wanted to fight. I never wanted to go into Muay Thai professionally, because I knew the negative detriments to the brain. And so because I already had quote unquote a broken brain, I didn't want to break it even more. And so while I wanted to train myself so that I could kick anyone's ass and pretty much put someone down, when I saw Bianca, I was like, girl, my training partner at the time, her name was Ganga, and she had gone, I want to say, to Brazil or something. She had moved. And I was like, I didn't have anyone to train with. So couple hooks, a couple punches, a couple crosses to the face. Bianca ate every single punch. And I was like, there's something about this chick. Let's talk about life. So before you know it, she and I, we started to talk goals and dreams, like she said. And then the Why Power podcast was born. So there's definitely a part two to this story that I want to get into, because obviously we only have so much time. But for those of you who are joining us, again, it's who you become at Evolve. The one thing that is constant is that change will always happen. You are always growing. You are always evolving. And there is a very, very important role that we each as individuals play in our own growth journey. And so there's definitely going to be a part two. Stay tuned on this, because there's so much that we've left out. And I am just so excited for anyone that is joining us on this journey. One of the things that we do know is that the limiting beliefs that Bianca and I had growing up, we have been able to bust those down. We have been able to grow and evolve in a way that people will look at us now and be like, how the hell did you guys do what you did? And now we're helping people around the world in ways that they never thought was possible for them. And so just like I would say to them, it is so possible for you. You are so far more capable than you could ever believe right now. And so if you'll join us on this adventure, it will be one hell of a ride of your lifetime. So yeah, I'm going to have to end there, because I know we got to jump to our next thing. But closing comments, sentiments, etc.
The reason I shared what I shared is because so many people believe that there's no future for them because of their story, because of their past, because of said diagnosis or said experience or said, whatever. And Emilia and I really want to be, and our goal is to be the example of what's possible for anybody. It doesn't matter where you start. It doesn't matter what happened to you. Your trauma is not the dictator of your future. It's what you do with it. It's who you become through it. It's what you do in the aftermath of it. Emilia and I took our trauma and we tried to use it to grow and to learn. And obviously, it didn't happen immediately and it wasn't fast, but it did happen. And if it could happen for us, the reason we want to tell this story and give you, a little touch of what it was like is so that you can see for yourself that people who might have had it worse than you or might have had it better than you, but there's so many stories out there showing you that it's possible. And our goal and our hope with this podcast and with this organization and with everything that we do is to help you see that it is possible for you too. Doesn't matter where you start, doesn't matter what you look like, it doesn't matter who you are. Everybody has the potential to evolve. And our mission and our job here is to help you see that. So we hope this episode gave you a little touch of that. And my episode suggestion is 391. Why does growth suck so bad? Because it does. Growth fucking blows. If you're doing it right, it sucks.
It's not easy. That's why it's so important to do it with other people who know that it sucks. And cue solid plug for group coaching. Evolve Group Coaching is going to be launching, and our first kickoff session is going to be July 24th. So stay tuned for more details on that, because of the fact that growth sucks a little less when you have growth-oriented friends. And that is what group coaching is going to give you. Okay, my episode suggestion in closing is 353. This is why we're afraid to learn. We're afraid to learn about ourselves. We're afraid to learn about where we came from. We're afraid to learn what happened to us. But when we face that, it is so freaking incredible who we can become. So thank you for joining us. For all the people who have been OG listeners, we're going to continue to share more little tidbits of our story, and you are a part of that. And so we are so grateful for the Evolve community that is joining us in this journey, that is allowing us to help them see what is possible for them. And there's so much more exciting things to come. So stay tuned. We'll talk to you later.
Bye, everybody.